Imagine the sun rising slowly over endless stretches of golden sand, painting the desert in soft shades of orange and pink. A warm breeze drifts across the dunes, carrying the faint scent of dry earth and distant oases. In this quiet, vast space, a line of traders begins to stir. They move with gentle purpose, their camels shifting softly on the sand, the rhythm of hooves blending with the whispering wind. Each step seems to belong to the desert, as if the sand itself is welcoming them. The traders are wrapped in light cloths to shield their skin from the sun, and their faces are calm, serene. The camels carry bundles of salt cloth and precious metals, treasures gathered from faraway lands. Each item has travelled through towns and rivers before reaching the desert's edge. Here, in the silence of the Sahara, time seems slower, and the world feels wide and unending. As the caravan moves forward, the sand shifts beneath their feet and hooves, creating small ripples, like waves frozen in place. The traders speak softly to one another, exchanging quiet words about the path ahead, the weather, and the nights to come. Birds sometimes appear far above, circling in the open sky, their calls echoing faintly across the dunes. The sun climbs higher, warming the desert floor, and the shadows of the camels stretch long behind them, stretching like slow, soft brushstrokes across the sand. When the heat rises in the afternoon, the caravan pauses near a small, hidden well. The water glimmers faintly, reflecting the sky, and the traders take their time, resting, sipping slowly, and letting the camels drink deeply. There is a gentle hush here, as if the desert itself is breathing with them. The soft sound of water, the occasional rustle of sand, and the low hum of tired camels create a kind of quiet lullaby. As night approaches, the sky cools and the stars begin to appear, scattered like tiny, silver seeds across the dark blue canvas above. The traders set up small fires, not too bright, just enough to keep the night calm and cozy. Around these fires, they share stories of distant cities, of bustling markets and quiet villages, of deserts crossed long ago. The warmth of the flames mingles with the crisp desert air, and the camels settle down, curling in the sand with gentle sighs. Can you feel, just for a moment, the softness of the night wind against your skin, and the quiet stretching of the sand beneath you as you watch the caravan rest? The traders drift into sleep one by one, letting the calm of the desert surround them. In this stillness, the desert seems to stretch forever, rolling gently like waves frozen in time, holding the secrets of all the journeys that have come before. And when the first hint of dawn touches the horizon again, the caravan will rise, continuing its slow, peaceful journey across the shimmering sands. The path they follow is ancient, worn smooth by generations of travellers. Sometimes the dunes hide small surprises, a cluster of stones that mark a crossroads, or the distant glimmer of a palm grove where water rests quietly beneath the earth. The camels move with careful grace, their pace steady, their breathing soft and rhythmic. With each step, the desert opens a little more, revealing hidden patterns in the sand, tiny hills and valleys that shift with the wind, like a secret language only the travellers can read. Morning stretches lazily across the horizon, and the first pale light spills over the dunes, brushing their crests in a tender gold. The air is cool, carrying a hint of the night's chill, but soon the sun climbs higher, coaxing warmth from the sand and awakening the hidden life that stirs beneath. Tiny footprints trace the passage of desert creatures, lizards, small birds, and even the occasional fox, silent witnesses to the caravan's slow progress. The traders pause sometimes to trace these markings with their fingers, marveling at the delicate persistence of life in such a vast, seemingly empty land. As the journey continues, the caravan approaches a long ridge of dunes that rolls toward the sky like waves frozen in stone. Each camel ascends with careful steps, feet sinking slightly, then lifting again, creating soft patterns that the wind will soon erase. From the top, the desert stretches endlessly, a sea of gold and copper, dotted here and there with distant, pale green ices or the dark shadows of scattered rocks. The traders lean on their staffs for a moment, breathing in the stillness, letting the quiet of the desert settle around them like a soft shawl. Occasionally, the caravan stops to rest in the shade of a lone rock or a low dune. These pauses are not hurried. Each one is a chance to listen to the wind, to watch the camels drink slowly from a small skin of water, to run hands along the warm, shifting sand. There is a rhythm here, a gentle cadence of walking and resting, of watching and listening. In these moments, the desert seems almost alive, as if it is breathing in harmony with the caravan, carrying the sounds of soft footsteps and low murmurs across its vast expanse. The traders share small moments of quiet joy along the way. A few of them hum old songs, their voices blending softly with the whisper of the wind. Others tell gentle stories, simple tales of faraway cities, of bustling markets, of people whose lives stretch far beyond the dunes. There is laughter too, soft and fleeting, carried away almost immediately by the vast openness, leaving only a sense of lightness behind. Camels accustomed to these sounds sway in time, low grunts of contentment marking the steady pulse of travel. As the sun rises higher, the desert takes on a sharper brilliance. Sand shimmers in pale yellows and soft golds, and the heat begins to ripple across the distant horizon. The traders adjust their robes and head coverings, shielding their faces and necks, while the camels move with quiet determination. Sometimes, the wind picks up, drifting in soft waves across the dunes, carrying fine grains of sand that glitter like tiny stars in the sunlight. The sound is like a distant ocean, soft and continuous, lulling travelers into a meditative calm as they move steadily forward. Midday brings a pause in a narrow valley between two high dunes. The traders find small patches of shade where the sun cannot reach fully, and here they rest. The camels kneel, their legs folding neatly beneath them, eyes half closed in gentle repose. Water is shared slowly, poured carefully from skins into small, waiting mouths, while the traders sip, letting the cool liquid soothe the heat in their bodies. There is no rush, no urgency, only the slow, comforting flow of life continuing as it has for centuries across this ancient land. From this quiet vantage, they can see the distant shimmer of a palm grove, the faint green promise of water and shelter. Some travelers stand and point, noting the faint shapes, the way the wind moves through the leaves, the way the light plays upon the fronds. Others remain seated, content to feel the sand beneath their hands, warm and soft, grounding them in the present moment. Small creatures stir in the undergrowth of the oasis, birds calling faintly, insects buzzing, lizards slipping across rocks. Reminders that even here, life thrives quietly, persistently, patiently. When the sun begins its slow descent, turning the sky soft shades of rose, lavender and amber, the caravan resumes its journey. The light changes everything. The sand glows warmly, shadows lengthen and deepen, and the distant horizon seems both near and impossibly far. The camels move steadily, their hooves pressing into the warm sand, leaving behind impressions that will vanish by morning. The traders talk in soft tones, sometimes pausing to admire the subtle shifting of the dunes, the way the light brushes against each crest and valley. Evening settles slowly, bringing a gentle coolness to the air. The caravan stops for the night beside a small, hidden well, its water glimmering faintly under the growing moonlight. Fires are lit carefully, small and low, their orange glow warming faces and hands. Camels lie down close to their companions, breathing slow and steady, while the traders share simple meals of dates, flatbread, and small sips of water. The night feels immense and peaceful, a soft, quiet blanket under the vast, starlit sky. Stars appear in a delicate cascade, scattered across deep indigo. Some twinkle sharply, others glow softly, as if the sky itself is breathing slowly in harmony with the desert below. The traders settle into the calm of night, listening to the soft hum of wind over sand, the occasional distant cry of an owl or fox, the faint of camel fur against the sand. In this stillness, the desert seems endless, its vastness both humbling and comforting, as if the world is holding them in a gentle, patient embrace. and as sleep begins to claim both camels and travellers, the dunes themselves seem to shift in a slow, soothing rhythm. Waves of sand move imperceptibly, forming soft ridges and valleys, like the slow rise and fall of breathing. The traders dream quietly of distant markets and familiar towns, of caravan paths traced long ago by others who came before, leaving their own invisible marks in the sand. And the desert, in its endless patience, watches over all, carrying the echoes of footsteps and stories across time, soft and unbroken, like a lullaby whispered by the wind itself. The night deepened, and the small fires of the caravan flickered gently in the cool desert air. The camels slept close to one another, their soft breathing a steady rhythm that blended with the whisper of the wind across the dunes. Above, the stars stretched endlessly, so numerous and bright that the sky felt almost like a mirror of the sands below, a silver, spattered reflection of the earth's soft undulations. The traders, wrapped in light cloaks, rested quietly beside their animals, feeling the cool sand beneath them and the soft hum of the desert around them. In these quiet hours, time seemed to slow, stretching the moments into something eternal. The rustle of a palm frond from a distant oasis, the faint call of an owl, the soft shifting of sand in the night wind. Each sound was magnified, each movement more deliberate, more meaningful. A lone traveller hummed softly, almost unconsciously, and the gentle tone floated into the night, swallowed gradually by the vastness around them. The caravan, though resting, seemed still alive, a living organism shaped by centuries of careful rhythm, of paths followed slowly, intentionally, across this endless sea of sand. By dawn, the desert had shifted again. Light spilled over the horizon in soft layers of rose and peach, painting each dune in delicate warmth. The camels stirred, rising smoothly to their feet, hooves pressing softly into the sand. The traders adjusted their coverings, shifting scarves and robes to catch the morning light, letting the first rays warm their faces and hands. There was no rush. Each movement, each breath, was part of a measured, gentle pattern that connected them to the land beneath and the sky above. The caravan resumed its journey with a calm, deliberate pace. Each step of the camels pressed into the soft dunes, leaving behind traces that would be swept away by the wind, erased like footprints in time. The traders walked slowly alongside, hands occasionally brushing the sand, feeling its warmth and texture. Occasionally, a small wind would blow, lifting tiny grains into the air, creating soft, shimmering veils that caught the light like dusted gold. The sound of this wind was low and constant, a gentle companion to the steady movement of life across the dunes. Somewhere ahead, the faint outline of a distant ridge appeared. The traders slowed as they approached, reading the subtle curves and slopes of the sand, noticing where the wind had carved small valleys, where small stones rested in unexpected places. Each ridge, each contour of sand, offered a different story, a different rhythm for the caravan to follow. Camels adjusted their steps with careful awareness, their feet sinking lightly into the soft ground, moving with a gentle, steady grace that carried them forward without hurry or strain. Around midday, the caravan reached a small depression, almost like a hidden room within the dunes. Here, the wind had sheltered the sand from its constant shifting, forming a small, quiet space where travellers could rest. The camels knelt in a neat line, eyes half closed, chewing slowly. Water was shared with careful attention, poured gently into waiting mouths, each sip savoured as a treasure of life and warmth. The traders themselves rested on the sand, leaning against low dunes, letting the warmth of the sun fill their bodies while listening to the soft, constant murmur of the desert. The sun climbed higher, bright and unwavering, but the wind began to rise as well, moving across the desert in soft waves. The caravan paused for a moment to watch the patterns it created on the sand. Tiny ridges and valleys formed, shifting subtly, glimmering in the sunlight. Each pattern seemed to have its own rhythm, its own quiet story, and the traders looked upon them with a sense of calm appreciation. Even the smallest details, the way a handful of sand rolled down a slope, the shimmer of a distant oasis, The sudden cry of a bird overhead felt like part of a vast, delicate symphony. By afternoon, a more prominent landmark came into view, a solitary rock formation rising above the dunes, its dark surface contrasting against the golden sands. The traders navigated toward it, knowing that these natural markers were as important as maps or stars in guiding their journey. The camels moved with steady deliberation, each step placed with care, while the travellers whispered observations to one another, noting the subtle shifts in wind direction, the soft contours of the dunes leading toward the landmark. As the day faded, the light softened again, turning the desert into a muted palette of gold, amber, and rose. Shadows stretched long across the sand, reaching toward the horizon. The caravan slowed, moving with an easy, measured pace, aware that the sun would soon sink completely, and that the cool of evening would bring a different rhythm to the journey. The camels' breaths grew slower, their movements smoother, and the traders felt the calm of the desert settle into their bones. There was no urgency, only a quiet connection to the land beneath and the sky above. Night fell like a gentle veil. Fires were lit carefully, their flames small and steady, providing warmth and soft light. The camels lay down close together, their sides pressed gently against the sand, exhaling slow, contented breaths. The traders gathered around the fires, sharing simple food, flatbread, dates, and small sips of water, while listening to the faint hum of the desert at night. The wind shifted softly, rustling the sand, carrying distant sounds of nocturnal life. An owl calling, the soft movement of a lizard, the faint crunch of tiny paws across the dunes. The sky above was vast and filled with stars, each one a distant point of light that seemed close enough to touch. The traders leaned back, watching the constellations emerge in quiet wonder. The Milky Way stretched across the sky like a river of silver, its faint glow reflecting softly in the sand below. In these moments, time felt suspended. The desert seemed infinite, a vast ocean of sand and sky, and the caravan itself was a gentle pulse within that vastness, moving slowly, harmoniously, as it had for generations. Sleep came gradually, settling over the caravan like a soft, warm blanket. The camels shifted gently, breathing in steady rhythms. Traders closed their eyes, letting the quiet of the desert surround them, carrying them into dreams of distant towns, hidden wells, and familiar faces. The dunes, now silvered by moonlight, seemed to breathe in concert with the travellers, rolling and rising softly, shaping the world into a calm, endless landscape of gentle curves and soft shadows. In the hours before dawn, a quiet stillness settled over the desert. Tiny creatures stirred, the sand shifted imperceptibly with the wind, and distant stars faded into the first hints of morning light. The caravan remained at rest, cradled by the dunes, a small, steady heartbeat in the vast expanse. And when the sun finally rose again, spilling pale gold across the horizon, the traders would rise with it, continuing their slow, deliberate journey, carrying forward the rhythm of centuries of travellers who had crossed this land long before them. Each day in the desert followed this quiet pattern: movement and rest, sun and shade, heat and coolness, light and darkness, woven together into a rhythm that was both soothing and enduring. The traders came to know the subtle moods of the winds, the whisper of the wind, the way the camels shifted with each step. Even the smallest details, the shimmer of a sand ridge, the faint green of a distant palm, the low call of a nocturnal bird, became familiar companions, comforting and constant. The journey was long and gentle. Each sunrise and sunset marked another chapter, another wave of sand traversed, another night spent beneath the stars. And though the traders carried with them treasures of salt, gold and cloth, they also carried the calm of the desert, the soft rhythm of footsteps and hooves, the quiet songs of the wind, and the patient wisdom of a land that had welcomed travellers for countless generations. The caravan stirred softly as the first light of dawn brushed the edges of the dunes. A delicate pink and amber glow stretched across the horizon, softening the harsh lines of the sand and casting long, gentle shadows. Camels lifted their heads slowly, stretching their necks and shaking the sand from their fur. The traders, wrapped in light cloaks and scarves, rose as well, brushing off the fine grains of sand that had settled overnight. There was a calm hush in the air, a kind of quiet that seemed almost sacred, as if the desert itself was breathing gently, encouraging the travellers forward with patience and grace. As they set out once more, the dunes rolled endlessly in front of them, rising and falling like gentle waves frozen in time. Each step of the camels pressed soft impressions into the sand, which the wind would soon erase, leaving the desert clean and untouched once again. The traders walked alongside, sometimes trailing behind, letting the rhythm of the animals guide their own movements. Their footsteps were quiet, almost reverent, as they traced the same paths that countless travellers had followed for centuries. There was a deep sense of connection here, a feeling that they were part of something much larger than themselves, moving through a landscape that had witnessed the flow of time in endless silence. The heat of the morning sun slowly began to rise, turning the golden sand into a shimmering expanse that seemed almost liquid in its brilliance. The wind shifted occasionally, lifting small grains of sand and carrying them in soft, glittering waves. Traders would pull scarves more tightly across their faces, letting only their eyes peek through, watching the horizon and reading the subtle slopes of the dunes. Camels adapted instinctively, moving with careful, steady grace, their legs sinking lightly into the sand, their feet leaving behind patterns that were delicate and fleeting. Occasionally, the caravan would pause at a small depression or cluster of rocks, natural shelters where the wind was gentler and the sand cooler. Here the traders would rest, letting the camels kneel and drink from skins of water. Each sip was slow and deliberate, a shared ritual of sustenance and quiet appreciation for the desert's generosity. The traders themselves would sit, letting the warmth of the sand seep into their bodies while listening to the faint, distant whispers of life. Tiny insects moving through hidden spaces, a small bird calling faintly, the rustle of a lizard across a rock. These subtle sounds, almost imperceptible to anyone rushing through the desert, became intimate companions to those travelling slowly, fully present in the moment. As the caravan moved again, a faint glimmer of green appeared far ahead. It was the first sign of an oasis, a small cluster of palm trees rising above the dunes, leaves swaying gently in the warm breeze. The traders pointed quietly, noting the direction and estimating the distance. There was excitement in the air, but it was tempered by calm awareness. The desert demanded respect, and no step could be rushed. Camels seemed to sense the promise of water, moving with a steady eagerness, yet their steps remained graceful and measured, never breaking the rhythm that had carried the caravan across the sands for so long. The approach to the oasis was gradual, as the dunes gave way to a more varied landscape. Small depressions held faint traces of water from distant rains, and tiny plants, delicate shoots, twisted shrubs, hardy grasses, peeped from the sand. The traders watched carefully, noting which areas were safe for the camels to walk and which were softer, potentially hiding patches of quicksand. Each step required attention, but the journey was still gentle, almost meditative, a dance with the desert itself, learning to move without disturbing its subtle balance. By midday, the caravan reached the oasis. The small pool of water gleamed like a mirror, reflecting the sky and the palm trees that surrounded it. Camels drank deeply, lowering their heads in unhurried rhythm, while traders cupped water in their hands, letting it trickle slowly to refresh themselves. There was a quiet celebration here, not loud or hurried, but soft and heartfelt, a shared recognition of life's persistence in even the harshest places. Some traders stretched beside the water, letting the coolness of the shade balance the warmth of the sun on their skin. The air here was heavier, scented faintly with the green of palms, the moisture of water, and the faint earthy aroma of damp sand, a gentle contrast to the dry, wide expanses they had traversed for days. While resting, some traders explored the small oasis, noticing birds nesting in the palms, insects flitting among the leaves, and the occasional small animal darting across the sand. Each observation was a reminder that life in the desert was never absent, only quiet, patient, waiting for those willing to see and listen. The camels occasionally shifted their weight or brushed against each other, their calm movements blending with the soft hum of the oasis. The desert, though vast and open, seemed intimate here, as if it had invited the travellers to pause, to rest, and to be present in its hidden world. As the afternoon wore on, the caravan resumed its journey. The sun began its descent, casting soft, golden light across the sands and creating long, gentle shadows. Each dune, each ridge, became more pronounced in the fading light, their shapes softened by the warm glow. The camels moved steadily, their breathing slow and even, and the traders followed, feeling the calm rhythm settle into their bodies. The journey was not hurried, it was deliberate, almost ceremonial in its pace, a careful balance of movement and observation, of human endurance and natural beauty. Evening arrived softly, and the sky shifted from gold to soft rose, then to pale violet. The stars began to appear gradually, faint at first, then in ever growing numbers, until the night sky was a rich tapestry of light. The caravan slowed, searching for a gentle hollow in the sand where they could rest. Camels lay down, folding their legs beneath them, and traders lit small, careful fires to ward off the chill of the desert night. There was no loudness here, only quiet warmth and soft light, enough to comfort the travellers without disturbing the serene vastness of the dunes. Around the fires, stories were shared. These were soft, whispered tales of distant cities and quiet villages, of travellers long gone, of markets filled with the scents of spices and sounds of laughter. Some spoke of the salt mines far to the north, where precious crystals were dug and carried for days to reach the caravans. Others told of the journey across distant rivers, the meeting of traders from other lands, and the small kindnesses that had been exchanged in places where life had been both hard and fleeting. These stories were shared not for excitement or entertainment, but as gentle companions to the night, connecting each traveller to the long history of the desert, to the millions of footsteps that had traced similar paths before them. The night deepened. Camels breathed slowly and evenly, their bodies warm and calm, as if in sync with the soft rhythm of the desert. The wind shifted slightly, carrying tiny grains of sand in gentle, glittering waves. The traders lay back on the soft dunes, wrapped in blankets and cloaks, feeling the cool air against their skin and the warmth of the sand beneath. Some closed their eyes, drifting slowly into sleep, while others watched the sky, tracing constellations and imagining distant lands illuminated by similar stars. The desert held them in quiet, patient embrace, and the vastness seemed protective rather than intimidating, a gentle reminder of continuity and timelessness. Before midnight, a soft call travelled across the dunes. A distant animal, perhaps a fox or a jackal, moving lightly in search of water or prey. The traders stirred lightly, but did not move. The sound was familiar, a gentle note in the symphony of the desert night. The wind whispered against the sand, shifting it subtly, forming new patterns in the dunes that only a careful eye could notice. The caravan slept through it all, safe in the shared warmth of the fires and camels, while the desert continued its slow, endless movements, shaping and reshaping the world in quiet, subtle waves. As the night wore on, the moon rose fully, silver and soft, illuminating the dunes with a delicate glow. Shadows lengthened and merged, forming patterns that seemed almost magical, shifting constantly with the smallest changes in wind or light. The camels stirred briefly, adjusting their weight, while traders turned slightly in sleep, dreaming gently of distant towns, markets, and the steady rhythm of the path. There was no rush here, no urgency, only calm, measured time, moving in harmony with the eternal desert. By the early hours of morning, the first hints of dawn coloured the horizon. Pale pinks and golds crept slowly over the dunes, softening the shadows and bathing the landscape in gentle warmth. The caravan stirred again, camels rising gracefully, traders stretching, brushing sand from their clothes and faces, and all moving with quiet care. Each step, each movement was deliberate, respectful of the land and its rhythms. The desert, vast and silent, seemed to recognize them, acknowledging the passage of travelers who moved not in haste, but with understanding and patience. The journey continued in this quiet, steady way for days and nights. Every dune told a story. Every ripple in the sand was a note in the gentle music of the desert. Traders became attuned to the subtle shifts in the wind, the faint sparkle of distant water, the softness of sand beneath their feet. Camels moved with a hypnotic grace, carrying both precious cargo and generations of wisdom across an unchanging landscape. And the desert, in return, offered its calm, its hidden beauty, its slow, eternal rhythm, teaching travelers the quiet, enduring art of patience and presence. The morning light stretched slowly across the dunes, soft and golden, brushing the edges of every ridge with gentle warmth. The caravan began its movement, camels rising gracefully from their resting places, legs folding and unfolding with careful precision. The traders adjusted their robes, scarves, and head coverings, letting the breeze cool their skin while shielding their eyes from the sun. Each step forward was deliberate, a measured rhythm that connected them to the land beneath and the sky above. The sand, warmed by the rising sun, shifted gently under their feet, forming patterns that shimmered in the early light and disappeared just as quickly under the next steps. As they moved, the traders spoke softly to one another, their voices almost blending with the whispering wind. Simple observations. See that ridge? It curves gently to the west. Or, the shadow there marks a hollow where water might be, were shared in hushed tones, as if not to disturb the quiet majesty of the desert. Camels responded instinctively to the path, feet sinking slightly into soft sand and rising again, leaving behind impressions soon to be erased by the breeze. In the stillness of the morning, the desert seemed vast and infinite, yet intimate, each movement a part of a larger rhythm, each step a dialogue between traveler and landscape. The first few hours of travel were soft and steady, the sun climbing higher, warming the sand and bringing subtle changes in its color and texture. The dunes shifted in gentle waves, pale gold fading to amber and ochre. The wind carried faint grains of sand, glimmering in the light, brushing against the traders' faces like the touch of an invisible hand. Here and there, small creatures left delicate footprints. Tiny lizards, desert birds, even a wandering fox, reminding the travelers that life persisted quietly, patiently in this vast expanse. Around midday, the caravan paused in a sheltered hollow, a natural break in the dunes where the wind softened and the sand cooled beneath the shade of small rocky outcrops. Camels knelt gracefully, eyes half closed, chewing slowly, while traders sat nearby, letting the warmth of the sun balance with the cool of the sand beneath. Water was shared carefully, poured slowly into waiting mouths. Each sip savored and appreciated. Some traders leaned back, tracing patterns in the sand with their fingers, while others gazed at the horizon, watching the subtle curves and shadows of the dunes, finding solace in the soft, endless rhythm of the desert. A few hours later, the caravan encountered a shallow depression in the sand, a hidden remnant of a long, forgotten waterway. Here the wind had carved small ridges and valleys, delicate patterns that seemed almost intentional, a hidden language written by nature itself. The camels adjusted their steps carefully, each footfall deliberate, as the traders observed the subtle contours of the landscape. There was no hurry. Every movement was deliberate, in harmony with the desert, a slow dance that had been performed for centuries by travelers before them. As the sun climbed and then began to descend, painting the dunes in warm shades of gold and rose, the caravan moved steadily forward. Occasionally, a faint shimmer of green appeared in the distance, the hint of a small oasis or patch of hardy vegetation. The traders watched it carefully, noting the direction and estimating the distance. There was a quiet excitement, tempered by respect for the land. The desert demanded patience, and every step was taken with careful attention. Camels moved with a steady grace, their breathing soft and rhythmic, carrying the traders and their precious cargo across a landscape that seemed timeless and eternal. The approach to an oasis was always gradual, as the dunes subtly shifted and the ground changed texture. Small plants began to appear, delicate shoots and twisted shrubs, sometimes hiding tiny pools of water beneath their roots. The traders moved slowly, watching carefully, aware of the risk of soft sand or hidden hollows. Every detail, the shimmer of light on a rock, the subtle slope of a dune, the faint sound of water trickling, became important, each one a guide in the silent conversation between human and desert. When the oasis was finally reached, the scene was gentle and restorative. A small pool of water gleamed like glass, reflecting the palms above and the soft sky. Camels lowered their heads to drink deeply, while traders cupped water in their hands, letting it trickle slowly, savoring every drop. There was no rush here, no hurry. Everything moved in gentle rhythm, a soft harmony of life and land. The palm leaves whispered faintly in the wind, birds called gently from hidden branches, and tiny creatures stirred quietly in the undergrowth. The desert felt alive in this moment, patient, nurturing, and calm. After a period of rest, the caravan prepared to move again. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the dunes, turning the sand into warm, muted hues of amber, rose, and violet. The camels rose with deliberate grace, and the traders followed, adjusting their coverings and stretching their legs. The soft rustle of movement, the gentle shifting of sand, and the low hum of the camels' breathing created a steady, meditative rhythm that seemed to echo across the dunes. The desert itself seemed to lean in, silent and expansive, carrying the travelers forward with a gentle patience. As night approached, the first stars began to appear, scattered faintly across the darkening sky. The caravan slowed, searching for a quiet hollow to rest, a gentle curve in the dunes where camels could kneel and fires could be lit without disturbing the stillness. Camels settled, folding their legs beneath them, exhaling slow, contented breaths. Traders gathered around small, controlled fires, the orange glow reflecting softly on their faces. There was no loudness here, only the gentle warmth of the fire and the soft, reassuring presence of the desert. The stories shared around these fires were soft, whispered tales of distant towns, of bustling markets, of travelers and merchants long gone. Some spoke of the salt mines far to the north, where crystal, white blocks had been carried across weeks of desert travel. Others told of the small kindnesses exchanged in distant villages, the sharing of water, food, or advice, gestures that traveled invisibly across time and space to the present caravan. These stories were gentle companions to the night, soft echoes connecting the travelers to generations that had walked these same paths. The moon rose fully, silver and serene, illuminating the dunes with a quiet glow. Shadows shifted and merged, creating patterns that seemed almost alive, constantly changing with the smallest gust of wind. The camels breathed slowly, moving slightly as they adjusted in the sand. Traders rested fully, some gazing at the stars, tracing the familiar shapes of constellations and imagining distant lands under the same night sky. The desert seemed to cradle them in its infinite calm, vast yet intimate, timeless and patient. Before midnight, a soft, distant sound travelled across the dunes, a fox or jackal moving lightly, perhaps seeking water or small prey. The caravan remained still, listening to the delicate noise, a reminder of life moving quietly in parallel to their own journey. The wind shifted again, carrying small grains of sand in gentle waves, forming new ridges and patterns that would be reshaped by morning. And in the deep stillness, the travelers slept, camels breathing in steady harmony, and the desert continued its endless, quiet rhythm. As the hours before dawn passed, the sky softened slowly. Pale pink and gold crept across the horizon, softening the edges of the dunes. The caravan stirred once more, camels rising with grace, traders stretching and brushing sand from their robes, each movement deliberate and measured. The desert, vast and eternal, acknowledged them, and the travelers moved in quiet harmony with its rhythms, following the path worn smooth by countless generations. Each day brought a repetition of these gentle cycles: movement and rest, sun and shade, warmth and coolness, light and darkness, all woven into the slow, enduring rhythm of the desert. Each ridge, each dune, each distant glimmer of water or green was a chapter, a note in the long, soft story of the caravan. Camels moved steadily, carrying precious cargo and patient travelers, while the desert offered subtle beauty, soft lessons, and quiet companionship. Every footstep, every sip of water, every pause in shade was part of a story that had been written for centuries and would continue long after this journey. The traders became deeply attuned to the subtle shifts of wind, the faint sounds of life, the delicate shimmer of sand at sunrise or moonlight. The desert, though vast, became familiar, intimate, a partner in their journey rather than a mere obstacle. They learned to watch for subtle signs, shadows of dunes hinting at hidden hollows, faint shimmer of distant water, patterns in the sand left by wind or passing creatures. Camels adapted instinctively, travelers attuned instinctively, and the journey continued gentle, endless, and profoundly peaceful. The morning arrived slowly, a soft wash of golden light spilling over the desert's vast contours. Each dune shimmered gently, revealing subtle ridges and hollows that the wind had carved in the night. Camels rose, their movements smooth and careful, legs folding and unfolding with a quiet grace. Traders adjusted their robes and scarves, letting the breeze cool their faces while shielding their eyes from the brightness. Every movement felt deliberate, a calm rhythm in harmony with the land, a connection that seemed almost sacred. As the caravan set out, the dunes rolled endlessly, forming gentle waves in the distance. The wind carried tiny grains of sand, lifting them into soft, glittering veils that drifted slowly across the landscape. Camels moved steadily, their padded feet pressing into the soft sand, leaving impressions that would vanish within hours, erased by the desert's patient hand. Traders walked alongside, sometimes trailing, sometimes observing the subtle shifts of light and shadow on the dunes. There was no hurry, only the deliberate cadence of travel, a meditation in motion across an ancient, ever-changing landscape. Hours passed quietly, the sun climbing higher, bathing the sand in a golden glow. Shadows shifted slowly, stretching across gentles and soft ridges. Occasionally, a small desert creature left footprints in the sand. A lizard darting to a shaded rock, a tiny bird hopping along the dunes, a fox slipping silently across the horizon. These signs of life were subtle, often unnoticed by anyone moving too quickly, but for the caravan, they were reminders of persistence, resilience, and quiet beauty. Each step, each glance, became a small act of connection to the timeless rhythm of the desert. By midday, the caravan found a hollow between dunes, a natural break where the wind softened and the sand cooled. Camels knelt gracefully, their eyes half closed, chewing slowly, while traders rested nearby. Water was drawn from skins, poured carefully into waiting mouths, and savoured with gentle gratitude. Traders leaned back on the soft sand, tracing patterns with their fingers, feeling its warmth seep into their palms, and watching the distant horizon where dunes rolled endlessly. The desert was vast, quiet, and generous, offering these small moments of rest as rewards for patience and careful observation. As the sun moved westward, the desert began to shimmer in pale gold and amber. Small winds lifted grains of sand, carrying them across the dunes like tiny, drifting stars. Traders adjusted their head coverings, allowing only their eyes to peek through, and followed the camels' steady rhythm. Every ridge, every hollow, every subtle variation in light and shadow became a marker, a guide in the silent language of the desert. The journey was deliberate, slow, meditative, a careful dance with the land, tracing paths worn smooth by centuries of travelers who had walked this way before. Occasionally, faint hints of greenery appeared in the distance, signals of hidden oases or hardy desert shrubs. The traders noted these carefully, estimating distances and reading the subtle slopes that would lead them safely across shifting sands. The camels, attuned instinctively, moved with gentle determination, adjusting their steps for soft patches or subtle hollows. The desert, though immense and unchanging to casual eyes, offered a rich texture of guidance and hidden treasures for those willing to observe closely. By late afternoon, the caravan approached a more substantial oasis. The first sight of water was a glimmer on the horizon, delicate and reflective. Palm trees swayed softly, casting long shadows on the sand. Camels lifted their heads, ears flicking, seemingly sensing the promise of water and shade. Traders guided them carefully, choosing the safest path across subtle depressions and shifting ridges. The approach was unhurried, respectful. The desert demanded awareness, patience, and quiet reverence. At the oasis, life seemed to unfold softly. Camels knelt and drank deeply, letting the cool liquid refresh their bodies, while traders cupped water in their hands, letting it trickle slowly, savoring every drop. Palm fronds whispered with the wind, birds called gently, and small insects moved quietly through the sand and undergrowth. The traders observed everything, the smallest movement, the subtle patterns of light on the water, the way the sand shifted at the edges of shade. Because in this quiet, the desert spoke in small, deliberate gestures, teaching those who travelled slowly. After a gentle rest, the caravan continued its movement, the late afternoon light painting the dunes in rich shades of amber, rose and soft violet. Camels moved steadily, their breathing slow and rhythmic, while traders walked carefully alongside, each footstep deliberate, each glance measuring the land's subtle contours. There was a calm intimacy here, a shared understanding that the desert's vastness was not emptiness, but a living space, patient and observant, inviting travelers to move with care, respect, and harmony. As evening approached, the sky softened into delicate shades of rose and lavender. Shadows stretched long across the sand, stretching with the setting sun. The caravan slowed, searching for a hollow or gentle curve in the dunes to rest. Camels folded their legs beneath them, breathing slowly, exhaling contentment into the cool air. Traders lit small fires, carefully controlled, providing warmth without disturbing the serene stillness of the desert night. Around the fires, whispers and soft laughter mingled with the gentle sound of wind and shifting sand. Stories were shared softly, tales of distant markets, of towns where spices and fabrics were traded, of travelers from faraway lands who had crossed similar dunes. Some stories spoke of salt caravans moving north, glimmering like pale crystals under the sun, of small acts of kindness exchanged along hidden desert paths. These gentle narratives were not hurried, nor did they demand attention. They were companions to the night, weaving a connection between present travelers and countless generations before them, a quiet echo of human life flowing across centuries. The moon rose silver and soft, illuminating the dunes and casting delicate shadows across ridges and valleys. The camels stirred lightly, adjusting their positions, while traders lay back, gazing upward at the stars. The Milky Way stretched across the sky, a river of distant lights reflecting faintly in the soft sand below. In these moments, time seemed suspended, the desert infinite, protective, patient, every sound, the wind brushing over ridges, the subtle rustle of leaves, the faint breathing of camels, blended into a slow, meditative rhythm, comforting and enduring. Before midnight, distant calls of nocturnal animals echoed softly, a fox, a jackal, the faint flutter of birds. The caravan remained still, listening, breathing with the desert, part of its eternal rhythm. Small waves of sand drifted in gentle patterns across dunes, forming ridges that would shift silently with the next gust. Traders and camels alike rested, safe in the embrace of the desert, which continued its slow, infinite shaping of land, sky, and rhythm. In the hours before dawn, the sky softened gradually. Pale gold and pink brushed over the horizon, transforming the dunes into gentle waves of amber and rose. The caravan stirred once more, camels rising smoothly, traders stretching and adjusting clothing, moving with quiet care. The desert seemed to acknowledge their presence, patient, vast, and intimate, a partner in the timeless dance of travel. Each ridge, each curve of sand, each subtle glimmer of water or green patch became a chapter in an unfolding story, a quiet narrative written by both human and land over centuries. Day after day, this rhythm continued. Sun and shade, warmth and coolness, movement and rest, light and darkness, woven together into an endless pattern of life, endurance and quiet reflection. Camels moved steadily, carrying both precious cargo and the accumulated knowledge of generations of travelers. Traders learned to notice the smallest details, to feel subtle shifts in wind and sand, to observe patterns in plant life and distant water sources. The desert, though immense, became familiar, intimate, a teacher in patience, awareness, and quiet connection. The journey was not hurried, and yet it was never static. Each sunrise and sunset offered new beauty, each ridge and valley new lessons. The caravan adapted instinctively, moving in harmony with the land. Camels adjusted steps for soft or uneven sand. Traders observed horizons for distant oases, subtle changes in dune shapes, and the faintest signs of water. Even the quiet sounds of nocturnal life became part of the rhythm, companions on a path that stretched beyond the visible horizon, beyond immediate needs, into the timeless flow of desert travel. As the sun rose again on another day, painting the sand in gold and amber, the traders continued their path, the rhythm of the caravan, a gentle pulse of movement and rest, of attention and reflection, carried them forward across centuries of history, across endless waves of sand, beneath skies vast and eternal. Each step, each sip of water, each pause in shade was part of a larger story, a slow, enduring story of human presence, patience, and harmony with one of the quietest, most enduring landscapes on Earth. The first light of dawn spilled softly over the desert, touching the tops of the dunes with a gentle glow. Shadows stretched lazily across the sand, fading slowly as the sun rose higher, and a soft wind stirred, carrying fine grains in shimmering waves. Camels shifted on their knees, stretching their long legs and arching their backs, while traders adjusted their scarves and robes, feeling the subtle coolness of morning on their skin. Every movement seemed deliberate, a part of the slow rhythm of the desert that had guided travelers for generations. The caravan began to move once more, each camel stepping lightly into the sand, leaving tracks that the wind would soon erase. The traders followed alongside, their eyes scanning the horizon, noting the shifting contours of dunes, the delicate patterns carved by the wind, and the faint sparkle of distant oases. The desert was vast and quiet, yet it held subtle signs of life. A lizard slipping between shadows, a bird taking flight from a hidden shrub, the soft movement of a fox in the distance. Each detail was observed, appreciated, and woven into the gentle meditation of travel. Hours passed slowly. The sun climbed higher, casting a warm, golden light over the undulating landscape. The sand shimmered like a sea of tiny gems, and the soft hum of wind carried across the dunes, a sound both constant and soothing. Camels moved with graceful steadiness, heads low, swaying gently with each step. Traders adjusted their pace to match, feeling the rhythm of movement in their muscles, the soft give of the sand beneath their feet, and the pulse of life that flowed quietly through the desert. Around midday, the caravan paused in a sheltered hollow, formed by a cluster of dunes that protected the sand from the full force of the wind. Camels knelt down slowly, folding their legs beneath them, and the traders rested, drawing water from skins and drinking slowly, savoring the cool refreshment. Some traced patterns in the sand with their fingers, delicate lines that reflected their calm presence. Others gazed toward the horizon, where dunes rose and fell like frozen waves, a vast landscape that seemed endless yet intimately familiar. The traders shared quiet words, soft observations about the patterns of dunes, the faint shadows that marked hidden hollows, and the slight shimmer of distant water. Camels shifted gently, ears twitching at the faintest sounds, and the wind whispered across the sand, carrying tiny grains that sparkled in the sunlight. The desert was alive, not in the way a city hums, but in subtle, patient movements, a language that spoke slowly and required attentive ears to understand. As the sun reached its highest point, the light turned sharp and bright, and the sand seemed almost liquid under its warmth. The caravan moved carefully, following subtle ridges that marked firmer ground, avoiding depressions where soft sand could trap a camel's feet. The trader's eyes followed the shifting shadows, the distant shimmer of potential water sources, and the delicate tracks of desert creatures. Every step was measured, deliberate, a meditation in motion, a dialogue between human and landscape, between animal and earth, that had repeated for countless centuries. Eventually, a faint glimmer of green appeared on the horizon, a sign of life and water in the otherwise endless gold. The traders slowed, observing the approach with quiet attention. Camels adjusted their stride, ears flicking, sensing the proximity of shade and water. The desert, patient as always, revealed this treasure gradually, allowing travelers to perceive its hidden blessing only when they moved with care and respect. The oasis was small but vibrant, a gentle pool of water surrounded by a few palm trees whose leaves swayed softly in the light breeze. Camels lowered their heads to drink, the gentle lapping of water blending with the whisper of palm fronds. Traders cupped water in their hands, letting it trickle slowly, savoring its coolness and clarity. Around them, tiny insects moved quietly among the plants, birds called softly from shaded branches, and the faint rustle of small animals in the sand completed the oasis's symphony of life. After a period of rest, the caravan continued its slow journey. The late afternoon light turned the dunes to shades of amber, rose, and violet. Shadows lengthened across ridges and valleys, creating subtle patterns that shifted as the sun dipped toward the horizon. Camels moved steadily, breathing in calm, measured rhythms, and traders adjusted their pace to match, walking alongside with soft, careful steps. The desert seemed to lean in, vast and infinite yet comforting, holding the travelers in its quiet embrace. Evening descended gradually, softening the light and cooling the air. The caravan slowed further, seeking a gentle hollow in the sand to rest for the night. Camels knelt, exhaling softly, and traders built small, controlled fires. The flames flickered gently, casting warm light on faces and soft shadows across the sand. Around the fires, whispers of conversation blended with the ambient sounds of the desert. The faint rustle of wind, the soft breathing of camels, the distant call of nocturnal birds. Each sound, each movement, became part of a larger rhythm, a lullaby carried across the endless dunes. Stories were shared softly, not for excitement, but for connection. Traders spoke of distant markets, towns far beyond the dunes, of merchants who travelled long paths with sought gold and cloth. They whispered tales of journeys completed centuries ago, of small acts of kindness passed along through generations of travellers. These stories were gentle companions, wrapping the caravan in the comfort of shared history, blending human memory with the timeless presence of the desert. The moon rose slowly, silver and calm, illuminating the dunes with a delicate glow. Shadows deepened, softening edges, and the camels shifted slightly, adjusting their weight as they breathed steadily. Traders lay back, gazing at the stars, tracing familiar constellations and imagining distant lands beneath the same sky. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, a faint river of light reflected subtly in the sand below. In these moments, time seemed to suspend itself, the desert infinite, protective, and patient, a silent guardian of generations of travelers. Before midnight, the distant call of a nocturnal animal echoed, a fox, perhaps, or a jackal, its voice carrying across the dunes. The caravan remained still, listening with soft attention. Small waves of sand drifted under the influence of the gentle wind, forming new ridges that would be reshaped by the morning sun. Traders and camels alike rested in harmony with the desert, part of its slow, eternal rhythm, wrapped in quiet reflection and gentle motion. By the early hours of dawn, pale gold and soft pink painted the horizon. The caravan stirred, camels rising gracefully, traders stretching, brushing away the night's fine sand. The desert responded, vast and timeless, moving with them, shifting subtly under the wind, observing them in its quiet way. Each ridge, each subtle variation in light, each distant green patch became part of a story, an ongoing narrative written slowly, patiently, and deliberately across centuries of travel. Days passed in a repeating rhythm of sun and shade, movement and rest, warmth and coolness, light and darkness. Camels continued to carry the traders' cargo across the sand, their steady breathing a constant companion to human effort. Traders learned to notice the smallest details, faint tracks of animals, subtle changes in dune shapes, distant shimmers of water, patterns formed by wind in the sand. Each step became a meditation, each pause a chance to reflect, observe, and connect with the eternal landscape. Every night, the caravan rested under the stars, small fires flickering, stories whispered softly, the desert vast and patient around them. Life moved quietly here. The call of birds, the rustle of lizards, the faint footfalls of small nocturnal creatures. The camels exhaled slowly, the traders drifted into calm sleep, and the desert continued to shape itself, rolling gently in slow, silent waves that were both imperceptible and eternal. Morning after morning, the caravan moved with deliberate rhythm. Camels adjusted their feet for soft patches, traders adjusted their pace for subtle ridges. Every detail, the color of sand, in sunlight the softness of a shadow, the faint glimmer of distant water, was observed, appreciated, and integrated into the steady movement. The desert was alive in subtle ways, patient and enduring, a partner in travel, a teacher of attention, patience, and quiet resilience. And so the caravan journeyed on. Each sunrise and sunset marked new chapters, new soft patterns of light and shadow, new whispers in the wind. The dunes stretched endlessly, sometimes rising into grand ridges, sometimes dipping into gentle valleys. Water glimmered in hidden hollows, palms swayed faintly in secret oases. Small animals moved quietly among the shadows. The traders walked in harmony with all of it, moving slowly, deliberately, feeling the rhythm of the desert flow through their own bodies, the steady pulse of camels beneath them, and the soft, endless movement of sand all around. The sun had just begun to rise when the caravan found itself approaching a stretch of dunes that seemed unfamiliar even to the experienced traders. These sands were softer, warmer in tone, almost glowing with the morning light, and they shifted more quickly beneath each step. Camels hesitated slightly, adjusting their footing, and the traders exchanged soft words, pointing to small rises and hollows that might hide hidden pitfalls. The desert, patient and eternal, seemed to invite caution, teaching once more that each day brought new subtleties and small lessons if one moved slowly enough to notice them. A gentle wind began to stir, lifting fine grains into delicate waves. Sunlight caught the sand as it drifted, turning the air into a shimmering haze. The traders moved quietly, breathing in rhythm with the soft gusts, letting the calm of the morning guide their steps. Occasionally, one of them paused to watch a distant shadow twist across a dune, perhaps the movement of a desert fox or the slow glide of a sand-colored bird. These small interruptions were welcomed, like soft punctuation in a long, flowing meditation. Halfway through the morning, the caravan encountered a strange formation of rocks, jagged and dark against the warm gold of the dunes. It was not large, but it created a natural corridor between the sands, almost as though the desert had formed it as a passage. Camels picked their steps carefully, and traders guided them gently, noting small depressions where sand had shifted and might hide uneven ground. There was a quiet reverence in moving through this natural corridor. It was like passing through a gate in time, a space that had likely existed unchanged for centuries, known only to the patient travelers who passed this way. Beyond the rocks, the desert opened into a subtle valley, smaller than the great dunes but with its own quiet rhythm. Tiny wildflowers, almost imperceptible against the sand, had taken root in patches of shade, their faint colors glimmering in the sunlight. A small stream, perhaps a remnant of rare rainfall, had left behind a delicate path of wet sand and smooth stones. Camels paused to sniff the air, curious, while traders knelt to examine the tiny flowers and the pattern of pebbles in the stream bed. This small oasis of life was a quiet revelation, a reminder that even in a desert known for its vast emptiness, the smallest signs of persistence and beauty could thrive. The day continued, and a gentle heat settled over the dunes. The traders moved with deliberate slowness, allowing the camels to set the pace. The wind carried faint sounds, a distant bird call, the soft flutter of wings, the whisper of sand across stones. In these moments, the caravan seemed suspended between movement and stillness, each step a quiet meditation, each breath a gentle acknowledgement of life's rhythm in the desert. As midday approached, the horizon glimmered with an unusual sight, a thin mirage of what appeared to be a distant lake, shimmering faintly in heat waves. The traders knew better than to rush toward it. The desert often played tricks on the eyes. Still, there was a softness to the illusion, a subtle invitation to pause and observe. Camels sniffed at the air, ears flicking at the slightest sound, while the traders shaded their eyes and watched the mirage slowly shift, shimmering, bending, and then dissolving entirely. The desert had its own quiet humor, teaching patience and humility in equal measure. By late afternoon, they came across another small discovery, a cluster of ancient stones, arranged almost like markers or remnants of a forgotten path. The stones were smooth, some engraved with shallow patterns worn by centuries of wind and sand. Traders examined them carefully, running fingers over the delicate curves, imagining travelers from long ago who had rested here, marked this place, and moved on. The camels rested nearby, their breaths slow and soft, while the wind carried a gentle hum through the rocks, like a whispered greeting from history itself. The sun dipped lower, softening the sands into warm rose and amber tones. Camels lifted their heads, sensing the approach of evening, and the traders sought a gentle hollow for the night. Fires were lit carefully, the flickering flames casting warm light and gentle shadows over the sand and stones. Around the fires, whispers and stories drifted into the night. Some spoke of faraway cities and quiet markets, while others told of travelers long gone, of desert crossings remembered only in soft oral tradition. The desert seemed to listen, holding each word, each story, and integrating it into its vast memory. Night fell fully, stars emerging slowly at first, then in ever-growing number until the sky was a dense, glittering tapestry. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, a soft silver river above the dunes. Camels lay down, eyes half closed, breathing slowly and rhythmically. Traders leaned back, gazing upward, feeling a gentle, almost sacred connection to the same stars under which countless travelers had passed. The desert, vast and patient, cradled them in its quiet, eternal embrace. In the early hours before dawn, a faint sound traveled across the dunes. A desert hare hopping lightly among rocks, a small fox rustling in distant sand. The caravan stirred lightly but did not move. These were the subtle companions of the night, soft reminders that the desert teemed with life in its own measured ways. Tiny grains of sand shifted with the wind, forming delicate, ever-changing patterns on the dunes. Traders slept, camels rested, and the desert continued its endless, gentle rhythm. Morning arrived with the same soft, golden light, and the caravan began its careful journey once more. The dunes stretched before them, endless waves of soft sand shimmering under the rising sun. Camels lifted their legs slowly, moving with deliberate grace. Traders followed, adjusting scarves and robes, shielding their eyes, and breathing in the faint warmth of dawn. Every ridge, every hollow, every subtle variation in light and shadow was observed, acknowledged, and woven into the ongoing meditation of travel. During this day, a subtle challenge arose. A patch of sand, unusually soft and unstable, stretched across the path. Camels slowed instinctively, their feet sinking more deeply than usual. Traders guided them carefully, adjusting weight and direction, sensing the change in texture and movement. They paused, observing the desert's subtle signals, the way the sand shifted, the faint patterns of wind, the sound of tiny grains moving underfoot. It was a quiet reminder that the desert, though gentle and serene, always demanded awareness and respect. Beyond the soft sands, another small surprise awaited. A series of shallow depressions held tiny pools of water left from distant rains. The camels lowered their heads, drinking carefully, and traders cupped water in their hands. Around these pools, small plants had taken root, delicate leaves glimmering in sunlight. Birds flitted softly among the greenery, and insects moved quietly, completing a miniature ecosystem thriving in the desert's hidden corners. The caravan paused, savoring the calm, the subtle beauty, and the quiet lesson that life could persist, often in the most unexpected places. Evening arrived, gentle and slow. The sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the dunes in muted shades of amber and rose. Shadows stretched and merged, and the caravan searched for another soft hollow to rest. Fires were lit carefully, and the traders shared whispers and stories, reflecting on the day's discoveries: hidden flowers, shifting sands, small animals, ancient stones. Each story was a soft connection to the past, a quiet meditation on travel, patience, and the enduring rhythm of the desert. The moon rose silver and full, illuminating the dunes in soft light. Camels exhaled slowly, traders leaned back, and the desert held them in calm embrace. Night sounds were faint: the distant call of a nocturnal bird, the rustle of lizards, the soft movement of wind-blown sand. Every element blended into a gentle, continuous rhythm, a quiet lullaby of movement, reflection, and harmony. Before midnight, a faint sound, a small desert fox moving lightly across the dunes, echoed. Traders paused their own thoughts to listen, feeling a subtle connection to the desert's quiet companions. The wind lifted grains of sand, forming delicate ridges that would shift by dawn. The caravan slept softly, breathing in harmony with camels and the subtle heartbeat of the desert. Dawn arrived again, pale gold and rose stretching across the horizon. Camels rose gracefully, traders adjusted their robes, and the caravan resumed its slow, measured journey. The desert seemed to breathe with them, vast and eternal, patient and protective, revealing new details each day: soft ridges, hidden oases, tiny flowers, shifting sands. Every step was a continuation of a story centuries in the making, every pause a meditation on the quiet endurance of life and the slow, gentle rhythm of the Sahara. The morning dawned with a soft mist hovering low over the dunes, unusual for this part of the desert. It blurred the sharp edges of the sand, creating a gentle, silvery haze that softened every ridge and hollow. The camels rose cautiously, their legs sinking slightly into the damp sand, and traders adjusted scarves over their faces, feeling the coolness of early light against their skin. This was a rare moment. The desert seemed to have shifted, offering a pause, a gentle invitation to notice subtleties often overlooked in bright, clear daylight. As the caravan moved forward, they noticed a distant glimmer that did not resemble any familiar oasis. It was small, almost imperceptible, a pale shimmer against the sand. Drawing closer, they found it was a thin sheet of ice, strange and delicate, formed from the cold of early morning that had lingered in a shaded hollow. Camels sniffed cautiously, intrigued, while traders knelt, marveling at the unusual sight. Ice in the heart of the desert was rare, a fleeting phenomenon that reminded them of the constant interplay between desert extremes: heat, cold, dryness, and the rare touch of moisture. The traders moved on, adjusting their pace to the rhythm of the camels. Mindful of soft sands and hidden hollows, the dunes shifted subtly underfoot, forming small waves that reflected sunlight in shimmering patterns. Every ridge and slope told a story: the passage of wind, the footprints of small creatures, the faint echoes of travelers from century past. Occasionally, a distant shadow caught a trader's eye: a desert fox, a sand-colored hare, or a bird gliding over a dune, small companions whose presence lent a quiet reassurance to the long journey. By midday, the caravan reached an unusual formation of sandstone cliffs, jagged yet elegant, rising softly from the dunes. They were not high, but their presence offered welcome shelter from the sun's intensity. Camels knelt, and traders rested in the shadows, letting the temperature drop slightly in the cool recesses. Tiny birds flitted among the rocks, and small lizards darted across sun-warmed stone, adding life and movement to the quiet sanctuary. Here, the traders discovered a cluster of ancient carvings worn faintly into the stone, a record, perhaps, of travellers who had passed this way long before. The designs were simple curved lines, circles, and faint depictions of camels and humans moving in rhythm. The traders traced the carvings lightly with their fingers, feeling a connection across centuries. As afternoon approached, the wind picked up, lifting sand in thin, sparkling waves. A gentle sandstorm began to form, distant at first, then slowly approaching, soft and hazy. The traders tightened scarves and adjusted coverings, while camels slowed their pace, ears flicking at the distant sound of whistling wind. The storm was gentle, not violent, and moved across the dunes like a wandering spirit, lifting fine grains into the air, scattering them across ridges, and shaping the sand in new, subtle patterns. Travellers paused occasionally to watch, noticing how each gust changed the surface, creating transient ripples that would vanish as quickly as they appeared. When the storm passed, a new sight emerged, a small, hidden grove of palms, almost invisible from a distance, their leaves glistening with droplets of condensed moisture from the passing mist. Camels moved carefully among the trunks, drinking slowly from a tiny pool that had formed at the grove's base. Traders filled water skins, letting the cool liquid seep into their hands, a rare and welcome refreshment. Birds called softly from the shade, insects moved quietly, and the soft rustle of palm leaves in the gentle wind created a delicate melody. During the afternoon, a subtle challenge arose. A ridge of dunes stretched across the path, unusually steep and soft, with loose sand sliding under the camels' feet. Traders guided the animals with patience, sometimes halting to find a firmer path along the base of the dune, sometimes allowing the camels to test the slope carefully, foot by foot. The sun cast long shadows, emphasizing the contours of the sand, and the traders learned again the delicate balance between caution and trust, between human awareness and the instincts of their animals. As evening fell, the sky shifted from amber and gold to soft rose and violet. A thin crescent moon rose, delicate and silver, casting a gentle glow over the dunes. The caravan found a sheltered hollow for the night, camels kneeling gracefully, breathing slowly. Small fires were lit, their flames casting warm, flickering light across faces and sand. Around these fires, traders shared stories that were both familiar and new, tales of rare desert phenomena, of caravans that had disappeared behind distant dunes, of hidden groves discovered after days of travel. Each story was soft and deliberate, a meditation in words meant to comfort and connect the travellers under the vast night sky. During this night, one trader spotted something unusual, a small cluster of glowing stones partially buried in sand. They shimmered faintly under moonlight, pale and cool, unlike anything else in the desert. Traders approached carefully, brushing sand away to reveal smooth, rounded pebbles that reflected the lunar glow like tiny mirrors. They examined them quietly, aware that the desert held mysteries often unnoticed, small wonders that required careful eyes and patient observation. Camels rested nearby, calm and unperturbed, breathing in time with the slow pulse of the night. As midnight deepened, a faint melody arose in the distance. The soft whistle of wind moving through a narrow canyon, or perhaps the subtle sound of shifting sand, carrying an almost musical quality. Traders lay quietly, listening, aware that the desert spoke in whispers as much as it did in visual beauty. The stars above glimmered densely, countless points of light, and the Milky Way stretched like a silver ribbon across the sky, reflected faintly in the pale sand below. In this quiet moment, travellers felt connected across centuries to those who had walked similar paths, guided by stars, wind, and the slow rhythm of the desert. Before dawn, a gentle fox emerged from the dunes, moving softly in the dim light. Traders observed from a distance, noticing the creature pause, sniff the air, and vanish into a hollow. Camels shifted slightly, ears twitching, but remained calm, part of the rhythm of life that persisted quietly through the night. Small grains of sand drifted with a new, delicate wind, forming subtle ridges that would shift once more under the rising sun. Dawn brought unusual colors, a pale violet that gradually deepened into gold, spreading across rippling dunes. The caravan rose, camels moving gracefully, traders adjusting scarves and robes, breathing in the fresh, soft air. Today the desert seemed to hold new possibilities, soft shapes hidden in shadows, subtle changes in wind, and small patches of greenery hinting at water beneath. Every ridge, every hollow, every glimmer in the sand became a small lesson in patience, awareness, and the quiet endurance of life. During this day, the caravan discovered something extraordinary, a hidden alcove in a ridge of sand, partially sheltered by overhanging rock, where delicate, rare desert orchids grew. Their pale petals shimmered faintly in the sunlight, almost ethereal, surrounded by small pools of water. Traders approached with reverence, observing without disturbing, and the camels drank from nearby water that had collected in small depressions. This small, fragile oasis was a gentle miracle, a reminder of the desert's capacity to nurture hidden life, and the careful observer's reward for moving slowly and patiently. As the sun reached its peak, a sudden, gentle heat wave rolled over the dunes. The camels slowed instinctively, and traders shaded their eyes, observing the shimmer of sand rising like a golden curtain. Tiny waves of heat distorted the horizon, creating illusions of distant water or distant shapes. The caravan moved carefully, aware that the desert could play tricks on perception, requiring trust in the camels' instincts and attention to subtle cues. Evening arrived once more, painting dunes in deep rose, amber, and soft violet. Camels rested, fires flickered, and traders shared quiet reflections. Stories tonight spoke of rare desert phenomena, of distant traders who had crossed paths long ago, of nights when stars and wind combined to create illusions and wonders. There was a gentle sense of awe and humility, a quiet acknowledgement that the desert, vast and eternal, was both teacher and companion, full of mysteries and rewards for those who moved with patience and care. Under the moon, camels exhaled softly, and the desert seemed to hum in quiet approval. Small nocturnal animals moved across dunes. The soft whistle of wind formed gentle melodies, and stars stretched across the heavens. Traders slept slowly, breathing in rhythm with camels and the gentle pulse of the desert. The sand shifted delicately under the wind, forming ripples and ridges that would vanish at sunrise, leaving the landscape ever changing yet timeless. With the first light of dawn, the caravan rose again, camels stretching and kneeling gracefully, traders adjusting coverings, and the desert awakening softly around them. Every ridge, hollow, glimmer of water, and patch of greenery was noted, appreciated, and integrated into the ongoing meditation of travel. The desert, vast and patient, continued to teach subtle lessons, revealing rare wonders, hidden life, and quiet miracles to those willing to move slowly and observe carefully. The sun had barely risen when the caravan began to stir once more. A gentle haze lay over the dunes, softening the golden light and turning the horizon into a delicate wash of amber and rose. Camels stretched their long legs, kneeling gracefully before rising to step onto the sand. Traders adjusted their scarves, brushing away grains clinging to robes and skin, and breathed in the crisp morning air, feeling its gentle coolness before the day warmed. The desert seemed to welcome them with a quiet hush, as though it, too, were preparing for the day's journey. This morning brought a subtle difference to the rhythm of travel. The dunes ahead were taller than usual, not sharply ridged but smooth and undulating, forming gentle waves like an endless ocean of gold. The wind was soft, carrying with it the faint scent of distant palms, a promise of hidden life just beyond the horizon. Camels moved carefully, feet sinking slightly into the yielding sand, while traders followed with deliberate pace, scanning the horizon for subtle shifts in light and shadow. Every footfall, every glance felt like a quiet meditation, a gentle dialogue between humans, animals, and the desert itself. As the caravan climbed a particularly long ridge, the desert revealed its first surprise, a small grove of date palms clustered around a narrow stream. It was unusual, almost magical in its serenity. Camels slowed, sniffing the air, ears flicking in curiosity. Traders guided them gently down toward the water, letting them drink deeply, while they cupped the cool liquid in their hands, feeling its clarity and life. Around the grove, tiny flowers pushed through the sand, delicate yellows and whites, almost imperceptible, yet vibrant under the morning sun. Birds flitted among the fronds, calling softly, and insects moved quietly, completing the delicate symphony of life. The midday sun climbed higher, painting the dunes in a richer gold. The caravan paused in a sheltered hollow, a small break in the dunes where the wind was gentler and the sand beneath was cooler. Camels knelt, folding their legs under them with calm, deliberate motion, and traders rested nearby. Water skins were filled and shared slowly, each sip savored. Some traders traced patterns in the sand with fingers, while others simply gazed toward the horizon, noticing subtle changes in light and shadow, marveling at how the dunes seemed to shift even in the same place, transformed by hours of wind and sun. By mid-afternoon, the caravan encountered a gentle challenge, a stretch of dunes, unusually soft and treacherous. The sand slipped beneath the camels' feet, requiring careful guidance from the traders. They walked slowly, adjusting their weight, sometimes pausing to let the camels find firmer paths. The desert was patient but insistent, teaching the value of caution, trust, and observation. Small grains of sand lifted with each step, shimmering in sunlight, forming delicate ripples that would vanish almost as soon as they appeared. It was a dance of movement and stillness, careful attention and gentle perseverance. While navigating the soft sands, one trader noticed a faint glimmer on the horizon. Moving closer, the caravan discovered a small cluster of reflective stones, partially buried in a shallow depression. They were smooth, rounded, and glimmered like pale mirrors under the sun. Traders examined them with quiet fascination, brushing away sand to reveal subtle veins and patterns, wondering how they had been carried or left behind. Camels rested nearby, breathing softly, while the traders marveled at this hidden beauty, a gentle reminder that the desert was full of secrets, revealed only to those patient enough to notice. Evening descended soft and golden, casting long shadows across the dunes. Camels lowered their heads, kneeling to rest, and traders set up small, careful fires. The flames flickered gently, reflecting off sand and stones, casting warm, moving patterns. Around the fires, stories were shared softly, tales of distant markets, of caravans long vanished, and of travelers whose names were preserved only in whispers and small carvings in stone. The desert listened, vast and eternal, a quiet witness to each spoken word, each soft exhale of wonder, each rhythm of breathing in time with camels and wind. Night deepened, and a crescent moon rose, silver and calm, illuminating dunes with delicate light. Camels exhaled slowly, eyes half closed, breathing with a steady rhythm. Traders lay back on warm sand, gazing at the stars. The Milky Way stretched across the sky, a silver ribbon reflected faintly on the dunes below. A soft breeze stirred, carrying grains of sand and faintly rustling palm fronds in distant oases. Every sound, the faint call of birds, the whisper of wind, the gentle exhale of camels, blended into a quiet, meditative rhythm, a lullaby whispered across the desert. Before midnight, a small fox appeared, moving lightly over the dunes. Traders watched quietly, noticing its careful steps and alert movements. Camels shifted slightly, but remained calm, and the desert's rhythm continued, vast and unbroken. Tiny grains of sand drifted with the gentle wind, forming delicate ridges that would change by morning. Traders drifted into sleep, breathing with camels, immersed in the quiet pulse of desert life. Dawn arrived softly, pale gold and pink stretching across the horizon. Camels rose with gentle grace, traders adjusted scarves and robes, and the caravan began its journey once more. Today, the desert revealed something new, a series of dunes that curved in concentric arcs, like ripples frozen in sand. It was as though the desert itself had formed a vast pattern for the caravan to traverse. Camels moved carefully along the gentle slopes, and traders observed the changing shadows, noting subtle variations in wind and sand. a silent lesson in rhythm, observation, and patience. During the morning, the caravan discovered a hidden in one of the dunes, partially shaded by a small overhang. Within it grew a rare desert orchid, petals pale and delicate, shimmering in the filtered light. Camels sniffed curiously nearby, while traders knelt to admire the fragile beauty without disturbing it. Water had collected in small depressions, and birds flitted softly, calling quietly, while insects moved among the flowers. This tiny, fragile world contrasted with the vast openness of the dunes, a reminder of the desert's hidden generosity. By midday, the caravan reached an unusual sight, a series of stones arranged in a subtle, almost geometric pattern. They were small and weathered, their purpose long forgotten, yet the traders approached with reverence. Fingers traced faint carvings, lines etched into the surface by generations long gone. Camels rested nearby, breathing slowly, and the traders imagined the footsteps of travelers long before, moving across the same sands, guided by the same stars and wind. The desert held these stories, patient and silent, waiting for those who would pause to notice. Afternoon brought the gentle challenge of a soft dune field, with undulating ridges that required careful navigation. Camels slowed instinctively, feet sinking slightly, while traders adjusted pace and guided their animals with quiet precision. The wind lifted fine grains, forming temporary patterns that glimmered in sunlight, creating a delicate interplay of light and shadow. The rhythm of walking, observing, and breathing became a meditation, each step a reflection of patience and awareness, each pause a gentle acknowledgement of the desert's subtle lessons. Evening arrived in gentle waves of amber and rose, stretching shadows across ridges and valleys. Camels knelt to rest. Traders lit small fires, and stories drifted softly on warm air. One trader recounted a tale of distant traders who had lost their way and found hidden oases only by observing subtle signs in the sand. Another spoke of rare desert blooms, fragile yet persistent, that could survive long periods without water. These stories blended with the sound of wind and soft exhalations, forming a continuous lullaby of knowledge, memory, and quiet reflection. The night sky deepened, stars emerging slowly at first, then densely, a vast, glittering canopy. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, mirrored faintly in the shimmering sand. Camels exhaled slowly, eyes half closed, while traders leaned back, gazing upward, feeling a connection to generations of travelers who had crossed these same dunes. A soft breeze stirred, moving sand in subtle ripples, while distant nocturnal animals added faint, delicate notes to the night's quiet symphony. Before midnight, a subtle glow appeared in the distance, a faint, ethereal light, almost like a reflection of the moon on sand. Moving closer, the caravan discovered a small cluster of crystalline stones embedded in a shallow hollow. They were smooth and translucent, catching the moonlight in gentle flashes, almost like tiny lanterns placed by unseen hands. Traders approached carefully, touching the cool surfaces, marveling at this hidden phenomenon, while camels rested calmly, unaware of the wonder around them. The caravan settled once more under the stars. Fires flickered, camels exhaled in harmony, and the desert stretched infinitely in every direction. Traders lay on warm sand, reflecting on the day's discoveries. Hidden orchids, crystalline stones, soft sand challenges, and subtle signs left by past travelers. The desert, vast, patient, and eternal, held these moments like a treasure, visible only to those willing to move slowly, observe carefully, and breathe in rhythm with the endless pulse of the dunes. The desert awoke slowly, as though the dunes themselves were stretching beneath the early light. Pale gold and soft rose tinted the horizon, spilling gently over the undulating ridges. Camels rose, lifting their long legs gracefully from the cool sand, and traders adjusted their robes and scarves, letting the first warmth of the day settle softly on their skin. The air was crisp yet gentle, carrying faint scents of distant palms and tiny, hidden blossoms, so subtle that one had to pause and breathe slowly to notice them. As the caravan began its journey, the dunes stretched endlessly ahead, forming rolling waves of soft gold. The wind carried a fine sprinkling of sand, lifting it into thin veils that shimmered like silk in the early light. Camels moved with calm deliberation, each step measured and balanced, while traders walked alongside, their pace in harmony with the animals. The desert seemed alive in the quietest ways. The slight curl of sand at the crest of a dune, the faint shadow of a bird gliding above, the rustle of a hidden creature beneath a sparse bush. Every detail was observed, acknowledged, and allowed to sink gently into memory. Hours passed quietly. The sun climbed higher, turning the dunes into shifting mosaics of light and shadow. The caravan moved steadily, guided by experience, intuition, and the subtle language of the land. Occasionally, a distant glimmer of green revealed the presence of an oasis, hidden beneath ridges of sand. Camels' ears flicked with awareness, nostrils quivering, and the traders adjusted their path, noting small depressions where water might rest quietly beneath the earth. The desert demanded patience and observation. Each careful step was a meditation in itself. By midday, the heat had softened the edges of every dune, and the caravan paused in a hollow sheltered from the sun. Camels knelt gracefully, folding their legs beneath them, exhaling softly. Traders rested nearby, drawing water from skins and sipping slowly, letting the cool liquid ease the warmth in their bodies. Some traced delicate patterns in the sand with fingers, letting their thoughts wander as the grains slipped gently through their hands. Others leaned back, eyes on the horizon, watching the faint shimmer of air and sand, imagining centuries of travelers who had passed this same way under the same sun and sky. As afternoon approached, the desert offered a subtle surprise. The caravan discovered a hidden cluster of stones partially buried in sand, smooth and rounded, catching sunlight in pale flashes. Traders knelt to inspect them, brushing sand gently away to reveal faint carvings, simple lines, arcs and curves worn by centuries of wind. They traced the shallow engravings with fingertips, imagining travelers long ago who had paused here, leaving a quiet signature of their passage. Camels rested nearby, ears flicking at the soft wind, and the desert held the moment in silent reverence. Later, a gentle ridge of dunes presented a challenge. The sand here was unusually soft, shifting under every step, and the caravan moved slowly, testing the ground before advancing. Camels adjusted their feet instinctively, sinking slightly with each careful step. Traders followed, sometimes stopping to find firmer paths, observing patterns in the sand, shadows and ridges. Each step was deliberate, a conversation with the desert, trusting instincts, reading subtle signs, moving with care, and respecting the quiet authority of the land. As evening descended, the sky transformed into a soft gradient of amber, rose, and violet. The caravan slowed, seeking a gentle hollow in the sand to rest for the night. Camels knelt gracefully, exhaling softly, while traders prepared small fires. The flickering flames cast warm, moving shadows, reflecting off stones and sand, and filling the air with soft, comforting light. Around the fires, stories drifted quietly, tales of rare desert blooms, long-lost caravans, travelers who had vanished behind distant dunes, and whispers of hidden oases known only to patient observers. These stories, spoken softly, were more than entertainment. They were a link to generations past, a gentle reminder of the continuity of human presence across centuries. The night deepened, stars appearing gradually until the sky was a dense tapestry of light. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, mirrored faintly in pale sand. Camels exhaled in rhythm, eyes half closed, while traders leaned back, gazing upward, tracing constellations, imagining distant lands beneath the same stars. A soft wind stirred, lifting grains of sand into thin, drifting waves, a lullaby of movement and stillness. Every sound, the faint call of nocturnal birds, the subtle rustle of small animals, the whisper of wind over sand, blended into a harmonious symphony, gentle and enduring. In the early hours, a faint glow appeared in the distance. The caravan approached carefully, discovering a shallow depression filled with crystalline stones that caught the moonlight like a cluster of tiny lanterns. Traders knelt, brushing sand away, observing the delicate translucence of each stone. Camels rested calmly nearby, and the desert seemed to hold its breath, presenting this quiet miracle only to those patient enough to notice. The moment was soft, almost sacred, a gentle pause in the long rhythm of travel. With dawn, the desert revealed yet another secret, a thin stream, flowing gently between low dunes, fed by a hidden underground spring. The water was cool and clear, reflecting the soft colors of early morning. Camels drank deeply, while traders filled skins and cups, savoring each sip. Around the stream, small plants had taken root, delicate flowers in muted shades of white and pale yellow, with insects moving quietly among the blooms. Birds called softly from hidden branches, and the traders marveled at this delicate, living oasis in the midst of vast dunes. As the sun rose higher, the caravan moved onward, crossing dunes that curved like gentle waves. The wind lifted grains into shimmering veils, creating subtle patterns in the sand, fleeting yet mesmerizing. Camels moved steadily, traders walking alongside, all breathing in rhythm with the gentle pulse of the desert. Occasionally, a distant shadow hinted at the presence of small wildlife, a desert fox darting across a dune, a hare slipping quietly between ridges, or a sand-colored bird gliding gracefully. These small companions became part of the meditation of travel, a reminder of life's quiet persistence. Midday brought a rare challenge, a stretch of dunes unusually steep, their loose sand threatening to slip beneath the camels' feet. Traders guided carefully, sometimes halting, allowing the camels to test each step. Each pause became a moment of reflection, observing how light and shadow shifted across ridges, how wind lifted tiny grains, and how small patterns hinted at firmer ground beneath. The desert, patient and eternal, taught once more that every challenge required observation, patience, and trust, in animals, in companions, and in the land itself. Evening descended softly, painting dunes in shades of rose, gold, and deep violet. Camels knelt to rest, fires flickered gently, and the traders shared quiet reflections. Stories drifted on, warm air tales of ancient travelers, hidden treasures in the dunes, rare desert blooms, and small acts of kindness passed down through generations. The desert seemed to hold each word in careful memory, a vast witness to human presence, continuity, and quiet endurance. Night deepened, the sky dense with stars. The Milky Way stretched above like a silver river, mirrored faintly in the shimmering sand. Camels exhaled slowly, breathing in time with the desert. Traders lay on the warm sand, eyes tracing constellations, feeling the gentle hum of life around them. A soft breeze stirred grains of sand, forming delicate ripples that would vanish with the rising sun. Each sound, the call of a nocturnal bird, the rustle of a lizard, the whisper of wind, blended into the meditative pulse of the desert, a gentle lullaby of life, rhythm, and eternity. As the first light of dawn spread across the horizon, the caravan rose once more. Camels stretched gracefully, traders adjusted their coverings, and the dunes shimmered in pale gold and amber. Today, the desert offered a subtle wonder, a narrow canyon, carved gently over centuries, its walls lined with faint, ancient carvings. Traders guided the camels carefully along the soft path, pausing occasionally to trace shallow lines in stone and imagine travelers from generations past who had passed here, guided by stars, wind, and the quiet rhythm of the dunes. Midday brought a gentle windstorm, not fierce but persistent, lifting grains of sand into thin veils that shimmered in sunlight. Traders adjusted scarves, camels slowed, and each step required careful attention. The desert, in its patient way, reminded them that even calm days held subtle lessons. Small oases of life appeared along the path. Tiny plants, hidden pools, birds darting between ridges, and each was observed with quiet wonder, integrated into the steady meditation of travel. Evening returned with a gentle palette of soft rose and violet. Camels rested, fires were lit carefully, and traders shared stories softly, reflecting on the day's discoveries: narrow canyons, hidden pools, ancient carvings, and the subtle music of wind across dunes. The desert held them in patient embrace, vast and eternal, and the caravan slept beneath a sky dense with stars, immersed in the endless rhythm of sand, wind, and quiet life. The caravan rose once more at the soft touch of dawn, golden light spilling gently across the vast expanse of dunes. Camels, ever patient and enduring, stretched their long legs and folded their bodies gracefully, adjusting to the soft morning breeze. Traders untied water skins, adjusting coverings to protect themselves from the sun that would soon climb high, and they moved with quiet purpose, guided by centuries of knowledge passed through families and communities: where to find hidden water, how to read the shifting sands, and which ridges of dunes promised firmer ground. The morning light revealed a landscape sculpted by time itself. Dunes rolled in endless waves, some smooth and low, others steep and imposing, the sand fine and soft underfoot. In the distance, faint green patches hinted at life, perhaps a small palm grove, or the subtle shimmer of water resting just below the surface. Traders walked with measured attention, teaching young members of the caravan to notice what the wind and sun revealed: patterns in sand, animal tracks, and the faint trail left by previous travelers, sometimes weeks, sometimes years ago. These marks, subtle and easily missed, were the silent guides across a desert that could otherwise swallow an unobservant caravan. By midi, the caravan reached a ridge where the sun reflected harshly off pale, shifting sand. Here, camels slowed instinctively, their padded feet adjusting to each step. Traders guided them carefully, balancing packs and gently encouraging the animals along firmer paths. The desert demanded patience. A misstep could mean days of struggle to free a sinking camel. The traders moved with quiet deliberation, teaching observation as a survival skill and patience as a necessity, imparting to the next generation the same respect and knowledge that had guided their ancestors for centuries. As the day wore on, the desert revealed its small, subtle wonders. A tiny pool of water appeared in a hollow, left from rare rainfall or underground springs that emerged unexpectedly. Around it, delicate plants had taken root, their petals muted but persistent in the harsh sunlight. Camels drank slowly, and traders cut the water in their hands, marveling at its coolness. Birds flitted softly among the vegetation, insects moved quietly, and for a few moments the caravan felt suspended in a secret pocket of life, a living reminder of the desert's resilience and quiet generosity. Later, they discovered a line of stones, partially buried, smooth and worn by time. These were not ordinary rocks, they were markers, remnants of long, forgotten trade paths. Ancient traders had left them to guide others across the featureless sands, a subtle map written in stone. Some bore faint carvings, lines and curves that hinted at previous travelers' names or the location of water. Traders paused to examine them carefully, tracing shallow grooves with fingers, feeling the continuity of human endeavor across centuries. Camels rested nearby, calm and breathing slowly, a part of the living rhythm that bound humans and animals to the desert. As afternoon advanced, the heat intensified, painting the sand in shimmering gold. A gentle, dry wind began to rise, lifting fine grains into delicate clouds that swirled around the caravan. Camels moved carefully, ears twitching, while traders adjusted their coverings, shielding faces and eyes. The dunes were ever shifting, patterns changed from hour to hour. Subtle depressions or soft patches could not be guessed by sight alone. The caravan relied on experience, observation, and the instincts of their animals, a quiet partnership that had enabled travelers to survive the Sahara for millennia. By late afternoon, the caravan stumbled upon a small, unexpected oasis, hidden among low dunes. Palm trees rose delicately above the sand, their leaves rustling softly in the breeze. Camels drank from pools, the water clear and cool, while traders rested in gentle shade. Small birds called faintly from the fronds, and delicate flowers peeped from the edges of water. Muted yellows and whites resisting the desert's dryness. Traders marveled at the quiet resilience of life here, reflecting on how, even in the vastest emptiness, hidden pockets of sustenance and beauty persisted for those patient and observant enough to find them. As evening approached, the sky shifted from gold to deep rose and violet, painting the dunes in soft, forgiving hues. Camels knelt to rest, exhaling slowly while traders lit small fires. The flames flickered warmly, casting moving shadows across sand and stones. Around the fires, stories were told softly: the journey of gold across the Sahara to the northern markets, the transport of salt mined from ancient quarries, the secret paths that allowed travelers to survive weeks without visible water. These stories were more than tales. They were lessons passed down for centuries, reminders of the desert's challenges and its hidden generosity. Night deepened, stars appearing in vast numbers. A glittering canopy mirrored faintly in the dunes below. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, a silver river connecting distant lands and travelers. Camels breathed slowly, eyes half closed, attuned to the rhythm of movement and rest. Traders lay on the warm sand, gazing upward, tracing familiar constellations, reflecting on the countless generations that had moved across these dunes, guided by the same stars. A soft breeze lifted grains of sand, forming delicate ripples that would vanish with the first light of dawn. Every sound, the distant call of a nocturnal bird, the subtle movement of a small creature, the gentle whistle of wind, blended into the quiet, meditative rhythm of desert life. Before midnight, a faint glow appeared in the distance. The caravan approached, discovering a cluster of crystalline stones embedded in shallow hollows. Smooth, translucent, and catching the moonlight like faint lanterns, they were marvels of nature, perhaps formed by mineral-rich water long evaporated. Traders knelt to examine them, brushing sand away with care, while camels rested calmly nearby. The desert seemed to hold its breath, revealing these delicate treasures only to those patient enough to observe. It was a reminder that the Sahara, while harsh and vast, preserved wonders that had survived centuries, waiting quietly for discovery. At dawn, the caravan rose again, the air crisp and still, carrying faint scents of distant oases. Camels moved steadily, and traders followed, scanning the horizon. Today's journey took them across ridges that curved like frozen waves, each dune sculpted differently by wind, sun, and time. Shadows shifted gently across ridges, revealing hidden hollows and subtle changes in sand texture. Traders taught the younger members to read these signs, softer areas indicating deeper sand, faint tracks hinting at small wildlife or previous caravans, subtle changes in color marking moisture beneath the surface. By midday, a challenge arose: a wide expanse of loose sand, shifting constantly with the wind. Camels moved cautiously, stepping with care, while traders guided them slowly, testing paths with each step. Sweat glistened under the sun, and the caravan paused frequently, adjusting pace and checking water. The desert was patient but demanded respect. Even experienced travelers had to remain vigilant. Small animals provided signs: a fleeting shadow, a disturbed patch of sand, a faint call, subtle markers that indicated hidden hollows or firmer ground nearby. Late in the afternoon, the caravan discovered another small oasis. Palm trees swayed softly, birds called from branches, and delicate flowers dotted the edges of clear pools. Camels drank deeply, and traders rested in shade, filling water skins and savoring cool sips. The desert, harsh yet generous, offered sustenance to those who traveled with respect, observation, and patience. Each stop was both a relief and a reminder of the delicate balance between survival and discovery in such an expansive, challenging land. As evening fell, the sky turned to muted shades of amber, rose, and violet. Camels knelt gracefully, fires flickered, and traders reflected quietly on the day's discoveries: hidden water, crystalline stones, ancient markers, and signs of wildlife. Stories passed down from previous generations were shared softly, lessons of survival, patience, and navigation whispered under a sky dense with stars. The desert held these narratives silently, vast and eternal, a living chronicle of human endeavor across centuries. Night brought calm, the wind lifting sand in thin veils, the Milky Way stretching across the heavens. Camels breathed slowly, traders lay on warm sand, and the desert, ever patient, continued its timeless rhythm. Every sound, the distant call of a nocturnal bird, the rustle of lizards, the gentle exhale of camels, was part of the meditative music of the Sahara, a gentle lullaby for all who moved with care and awareness. Morning unfolded with a soft, silken light spilling across the horizon, turning dunes into gentle waves of amber and rose. The caravan stirred slowly, camels raising themselves gracefully from the cool, still sand, stretching their long legs and shifting packs to adjust. Traders moved deliberately, their hands brushing lightly over the leather of saddles, adjusting scarves to shield faces from the rising sun. The air was still, carrying the faint fragrance of desert herbs and distant, hidden palms, a reminder that life in the Sahara persisted in subtle, quiet ways. The dunes ahead curved gently, forming sweeping arcs that rose and fell like a golden sea. Each step was measured, the camel's padded feet sinking slightly before finding purchase, and the traders' movements mirrored the slow rhythm of the landscape. Shadows shifted as the sun climbed, soft lines moving across ridges and hollows, subtly revealing areas of firmer sand and hidden hollows. Travelers had learned to read these signs over generations, slight color variations, faint patterns, and the way wind played across surfaces could indicate safe paths or soft traps beneath the dunes. As the day advanced, a soft breeze carried fine grains of sand, lifting them into thin, shimmering veils that danced in the sunlight. Camels lifted their heads, nostrils twitching, ears flicking in the quiet alertness that had guided them for centuries. Traders followed, walking deliberately, teaching younger members to notice the delicate interplay of light, shadow, and movement. Even the smallest shifts in the sand told a story. A footprint from a distant traveler, a disturbance where a desert fox had paused, a faint pattern left by shifting wind. Mid-morning revealed a rare and delicate sight, a small cluster of desert lilies, nestled at the base of a gentle dune slope. Their petals, pale and almost translucent, shimmered softly under the sunlight, resilient yet fragile. Camels paused instinctively, sniffing at the unusual addition to the landscape, while traders knelt to observe, careful not to disturb these quiet survivors. In this simple moment, there was a gentle lesson. Even in a land known for vast emptiness, persistence and beauty could thrive, often unnoticed. The caravan continued, crossing low ridges where the sand had been shaped by the persistent wind into delicate, symmetrical waves. Patterns shifted underfoot, and the traders taught attentive observation to those traveling with them. How slight depressions indicated moisture below, how the sand's color could reveal hidden firmness, how distant hills reflected faintly in heat mirages. Every step became a meditation, each pause a chance to absorb the subtle details of the desert, learning patience and attentiveness in the presence of its vast, quiet authority. By early afternoon, the sun bore down, turning the dunes a deeper, molten gold. A gentle shimmer rose from the surface, soft waves of heat-bending distant light. Camels slowed instinctively, guided with care by experienced hands. Traders adjusted coverings, shielding their eyes and faces, and paused periodically to check water and rest, aware that even slight overexertion could cause exhaustion in the intense heat. The desert was both teacher and tester, rewarding careful observation and respect, punishing haste and neglect. A subtle discovery awaited them in a shallow hollow, a series of stones, arranged deliberately yet softened by centuries of wind. Faint carvings marked their surfaces, simple arcs and lines, some forming small animal shapes, others abstract symbols worn nearly smooth by time. Traders knelt, running fingers lightly over the carvings, imagining the travelers who had passed this way long ago. Camels rested nearby, breathing slowly, part of the rhythmic continuity of life across centuries. These markers, though small, served as guides, teaching careful navigation and the value of shared knowledge passed silently across generations. Late afternoon brought another quiet challenge. A stretch of dunes, unusually soft and steep, required careful attention. Camels tested each step, sinking slightly with each movement, while traders guided them, balancing weight and observing subtle cues from animals' instinctive judgment. The interplay between animal intuition and human guidance was delicate and essential. One misstep could lead to exhaustion or lost progress. The wind lifted fine grains into shifting veils, glittering in sunlight, creating a moving pattern that mesmerized, distracted, and reminded travelers to focus on steady attention. As the sun began its descent, the horizon shifted into muted shades of rose, amber, and violet. Camels knelt to rest. Fires were lit gently, casting soft warmth over sand and stones. Traders settled nearby, quietly sharing observations, small stories, and reflections. One spoke of a caravan that had navigated similar dunes centuries ago, moving gold from distant mines to northern markets. Another recounted rare blooms that appeared after infrequent rains, surviving harsh sun and relentless winds. These stories were passed softly, not as entertainment, but as guidance and connection to the generations of travelers who had followed these same paths. Night arrived gradually, deepening into a rich canvas of stars. The Milky Way stretched across the sky, mirrored faintly in rippling sand. Camels exhaled slowly, eyes half closed, breathing in rhythm with the quiet pulse of the desert. Traders lay back on warm sand, scanning constellations, tracing shapes remembered from childhood stories and tales passed down over centuries. The desert whispered its subtle melodies, distant bird calls, the rustle of small creatures, the soft whistle of wind across ridges. Each sound was part of the meditative, timeless rhythm of life, steady and unbroken. Before midnight, a faint luminescence appeared in a distant hollow. Upon approach, the caravan found a cluster of crystals, partially embedded in sand, catching moonlight like miniature lanterns. Smooth and translucent, they reflected a quiet, ethereal glow. Traders brushed sand gently away, observing without disturbing, marveling at the delicate wonder. Camels rested nearby, calm and patient, as the desert revealed this rare gift to those moving with care and observation. Such discoveries were reminders of the Sahara's hidden generosity, waiting for the attentive traveler. Dawn arrived again, pale gold stretching across the horizon. Camels rose gracefully, traders adjusted coverings, and the caravan set forth toward a ridge of dunes, curling like frozen waves. Each crest revealed subtle patterns, faint depressions indicating water, soft shifts in sand texture, and shadows revealing hollows or firm paths. The younger travelers practiced observation, learning to read the land, the wind, and the sun, guided by the patience of older companions. Each step was a continuation of the lessons taught for generations: respect, careful observation, and harmonious movement with the desert. By midday, a soft shimmer indicated the presence of hidden water beneath sand. Camels paused, sniffing the air, and traders tested the ground with hands and small sticks. They discovered a shallow pool, fed by a subterranean spring, and water was drawn with care. Around it, delicate plants grew, their muted colors glowing faintly in sunlight, while birds flitted softly. The moment was serene. A hidden oasis discovered through attention and patience, a gentle reward from a desert that tested every traveler's skill and mindfulness. Later, the caravan moved past a series of low cliffs, where faint carvings marked surfaces worn smooth by centuries of wind. Small lines and curves suggested animals, travelers, or abstract symbols, perhaps a silent map left for those who came after. Traders traced them gently, imagining the hands that had carved them, the footsteps that had followed these same dunes. Camels rested quietly, breathing rhythmically, as the desert held this moment in calm eternity, bridging past and present in a subtle, invisible connection. Evening brought muted shadows and a gentle cooling of the dunes. Camels knelt to rest, fires flickered softly, and traders shared quiet stories of distant kingdoms, salt caravans, ancient mines, and rare blooms appearing after long droughts. These tales were soft threads connecting generations, linking human presence across time in the vastness of the desert. The wind carried grains of sand gently, forming delicate ripples that would vanish by dawn, and the night stretched above, dense with stars. Night deepened, and the caravan remained still under the eternal sky. Camels breathed softly, traders lay quietly on sand warmed by the day. Distant calls of nocturnal birds mingled with the soft rustle of small creatures and the whisper of wind, forming a lullaby that had echoed for centuries across these dunes. Every sound, every ripple of sand, every subtle reflection of moonlight was part of the rhythm of life, unbroken and eternal. As dawn neared, the desert revealed its final morning secrets. Faint trails left by small animals, delicate patterns in sand formed overnight, and the distant shimmer of hidden water. Camels rose once more, the caravan preparing to continue the long journey, moving with harmony and awareness. Each day added layers of knowledge, patience, and quiet discovery, a preparation for the eventual completion of the path. While leaving room for wonder at the next hidden corner of the Sahara, the caravan stirred before sunrise, the dunes cloaked in the softest shades of violet and silver. Camels rose slowly, their movements deliberate and rhythmic, stretching long legs and shifting packs with care. Traders adjusted scarves and robes, feeling the chill of morning on skin before the sun fully claimed the sky. A quiet stillness lingered, as though the desert itself paused to welcome another day, stretching endlessly in gentle undulations of sand and shadow. The path ahead was familiar, yet subtly different. Dunes rolled in undulating curves, shaped by wind patterns unique to this stretch of the Sahara. Traders moved alongside camels, their footsteps silent, attuned to the shifting ground beneath. Tiny depressions in sand hinted at moisture or small wildlife trails, while ridges reflected soft light, offering subtle markers for direction. The desert demanded constant observation, a patient attention to minute detail, and the caravan honored it with slow, deliberate movement. By mid-morning, the heat began to deepen, casting shimmering waves across the dunes. Camels adjusted instinctively, their padded feet sinking slightly, careful not to strain. Traders followed with quiet diligence, noting every change in sand texture, every shift in shadow. Along the edges of a shallow hollow, a cluster of desert lilies opened gently to the sun, pale petals glistening with dew that had survived the morning chill. The camels paused, and the traders knelt to admire the fragile beauty, conscious not to disturb the delicate balance of life in this harsh environment. A subtle ridge revealed traces of past travelers, a faint line of footprints, partially covered by drifting sand, leading toward a low sandstone outcrop. Here, ancient carvings could still be discerned, weathered but recognizable simple curves, circles, and faint depictions of camels and humans moving in rhythm. Traders ran fingers lightly over the surfaces, feeling the resonance of generations long gone. Each mark was a reminder that their journey was part of a much larger continuum, a bridge between the present and the many who had crossed these sands before. As the sun climbed higher, the desert shimmered, creating illusions of distant water or faint ridges that seemed closer than they were. Camels paused occasionally, nostrils twitching, ears flicking, their instincts attuned to subtle changes in heat, sand, and wind. Traders guided them carefully, teaching young travelers to trust both their own observation and the intuition of their animals. Each step was deliberate, a meditation in motion, blending awareness, patience, and harmony with the land. Midday revealed a hidden hollow, barely noticeable from the rising dunes. Within it, a small pool of water reflected sunlight softly, surrounded by muted vegetation. Birds called gently from hidden branches, and tiny insects moved with quiet diligence across the surface. Camels drank deeply, and traders cupped the water, savoring each sip. The oasis was a rare gift, the desert rewarding careful observation and respect. Even the smallest life, flowers, insects, birds, was evidence of resilience, a delicate miracle sustained by subterranean springs or hidden moisture. The afternoon brought a gentle challenge. A broad expanse of dunes rose and fell, each crest steeper than the last, and the sand was unusually loose. Camels tested the ground carefully, while traders guided them slowly, balancing weight, packs, and careful attention. Young travelers learned to observe subtle signs, shadows that hinted at hollows, wind patterns that indicated soft patches, and footprints of small creatures that marked firmer paths. The desert, patient and eternal, reminded them that every journey required mindfulness, trust, and quiet perseverance. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, Long shadows stretched across ridges and valleys. Camels knelt to rest, folding legs beneath them, exhaling softly, their breath mingling with the gentle rustle of wind and shifting sand. Traders lit small fires, the flames casting warm, flickering light on sand, stones, and faces. Stories drifted softly in the warm air, tales of caravans transporting salt across the Sahara, of distant kingdoms trading gold and ivory, of hidden oases discovered after days without visible water. Each story was more than entertainment. It was a lesson, a connection to the lineage of travelers who had crossed these sands over centuries. Night descended fully, stars appearing one by one until the sky became a dense canopy of light. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, mirrored faintly by the pale shimmer of dunes. Camels rested with slow, steady breathing. Traders lay quietly on the sand, gazing upward. The desert whispered in subtle sounds, the faint call of nocturnal birds, the rustle of small creatures among the dunes, the gentle whistle of wind over ridges. Each noise formed part of the meditative rhythm, an endless lullaby that had echoed across centuries. Before midnight, a faint, ethereal glow appeared in a distant hollow. Approaching carefully, the caravan discovered a small cluster of crystalline stones, partially embedded in sand, reflecting moonlight like tiny lanterns. Smooth and translucent, they seemed almost otherworldly. Traders brushed sand gently from the surfaces, observing without disturbing, while camels rested nearby. The desert seemed to hold its breath, revealing this quiet treasure only to those who moved with patience and care. It was a reminder that the Sahara, vast and harsh, also preserved wonders for those who approached it with respect. Dawn arrived softly, pale gold spilling across dunes that curved like frozen waves. Camels rose gracefully, traders adjusted coverings, and the caravan continued toward a ridge where the sand met low sandstone cliffs. Faint carvings marked the rock surface's abstract symbols, depictions of camels and traces of travelers long gone. Traders traced shallow lines with fingers, feeling the connection to centuries past, while camels rested quietly nearby, breathing in rhythm with the desert's pulse. Every mark, every ridge, and every grain of sand was part of the continuous story of life and travel across this immense landscape. By mid-morning, a soft breeze carried scents of distant vegetation, hinting at hidden water. Camels raised their heads, nostrils twitching, ears flicking, aware of subtle changes in the air. Traders guided them slowly, testing the ground, observing faint tracks in sand left by small animals or previous caravans. Their journey, though long and arduous, was made possible by careful observation, patience, and the knowledge accumulated over generations. Every moment was a lesson how to read the land, how to trust instincts, how to respect the vast, eternal rhythms of the desert. Late morning revealed a subtle phenomenon. Distant heat mirages created the illusion of hidden pools or distant ridges. Camels paused, adjusting feet carefully, and traders taught younger travelers how to discern reality from illusion, observing changes in light, shadow, and reflection. The desert, patient and eternal, had many subtle lessons. Patience, careful observation, and awareness of the ever-shifting environment were essential for survival and for understanding its quiet mysteries. As midday approached, a small hollow revealed an unexpected oasis. Palm trees swayed gently, small birds called softly, and delicate flowers glimmered faintly. Water was drawn with care, camels drank, and traders cupped it in hands, savoring the cool relief. Life here persisted quietly, resilient and delicate. The desert had once again rewarded careful attention and respect with a hidden pocket of vitality. Evening spread across the dunes, painting ridges and hollows in muted shades of amber, rose, and violet. Camels knelt to rest, fires were lit, and traders shared quiet reflections and stories of long journeys, distant markets, and secret paths. The desert absorbed these words, holding them silently, a repository of memory spanning centuries. Each tale was both a lesson and a gentle meditation, connecting travelers across time, reminding them of the enduring rhythm of life in the Sahara. Night deepened, stars filling the sky, mirrored faintly in sand beneath. Camels exhaled slowly, Traders lay quietly, gazing upward, and the desert whispered in subtle sounds. Distant nocturnal calls, rustling small creatures, and soft winds across ridges. Every element formed part of the meditative pulse, a timeless rhythm sustained across centuries of travel and observation. As the first light of dawn spread across the horizon, traders and camels rose once more. The dunes shimmered with soft gold, patterns shaped by overnight winds shifting subtly. Today the caravan moved toward a distant cluster of low hills, rumored to mark the approach of a major trade city. The travelers sensed proximity without haste, moving deliberately, observing subtle changes in sand, wind, and light. Each step carried them closer to civilization, yet the desert remained a teacher, offering lessons in patience, observation, and the gentle persistence of life. The morning revealed faint traces of previous travelers' partial footprints, small hollows indicating hidden water, subtle markers left by caravans long ago. Traders paused to examine these, sharing knowledge with younger members, explaining how these marks guided navigation across otherwise featureless terrain. Camels moved steadily, trusting their instincts, while humans observed attentively, all moving in harmony with the desert's rhythms. The sun had just begun its climb, spilling soft light over the last stretch of dunes. The caravan moved steadily, camels' feet pressing into warm sand, their breathing slow and rhythmic. Traders walked alongside, eyes alert yet calm, noticing every subtle change, the way shadows fell across ridges, how the wind shifted grains of sand, and the distant glimmer of green that hinted at life beyond the desert. Each step felt both ordinary and extraordinary, a continuation of a journey that had begun countless generations ago, tracing paths carved by travelers long gone. As the caravan crested the final ridge, a vast city emerged in the distance. Its walls rose gently from the desert floor, sunlit and shimmering, with towers and minarets reflecting the late morning light. Traders paused for a moment, drinking in the view, feeling the quiet satisfaction of reaching the destination after long days across sand and sky. Camels shifted softly, kneeling at intervals, sensing the change in atmosphere. The city promised water, markets, and shelter, but the desert had left its imprint on every traveler, a quiet teaching that patience, observation, and resilience were as important as speed or destination. Descending the dunes toward the city, the caravan moved with deliberate care. Traders guided camels along the safest paths, pointing out small markers in the sand, remnants of earlier travelers perhaps forgotten long ago, yet preserved by wind and time. Along the way, delicate desert blooms peeked from shaded hollows, small signs of life that had persisted despite harsh conditions. Birds called faintly from distant palms, insects drifted in warm air, and the caravan's rhythm. Feet on sand, camels breathing, quiet conversation, blended seamlessly with the enduring pulse of the desert. Approaching the city gates, the sounds of human life became audible. A distant call from a market, the faint clatter of pottery, and the soft murmur of voices rose from within stone walls. The traders guided camels carefully through narrow passages, past small oases tucked within streets and courtyards, until they reached a central square. Here, merchants were busy trading goods brought across vast distances, gold, salt, ivory, grains, and exotic spices. The sights, sounds, and scents were rich but calm, a gentle contrast to the quiet intensity of the desert journey. The traders led their camels to water troughs, letting them drink and rest after the long trek. They untied packs, inspected goods, and began preparing for trade. As they worked, younger travelers sat quietly, watching, learning not just the business of trade, but the patience, observation, and quiet resilience that had carried them across thousands of miles of sand. The journey had not merely been about reaching the city. It had been about understanding the rhythm of life in the desert, the subtle lessons embedded in wind, sand, and stone, and the endurance of both humans and animals. As evening approached, the city softened under the glow of sunset. Traders and travelers alike paused to reflect on the journey, the endless dunes, the secret ices, the crystalline stones glowing faintly under moonlight, the subtle traces left by travelers over centuries. Each day, each ridge crossed, each step taken across shifting sand, had been a meditation, a gentle conversation between humans, camels, and the eternal desert. Lessons of patience, observation, respect, and harmony had been learned, and the story of their passage became part of the larger story of the Sahara itself, a quiet thread in the vast tapestry of human history. Night fell fully, the city quieting under a blanket of stars, while distant dunes still whispered faintly of the winds that had shaped them. Camels rested peacefully, traders reflected softly, and the desert's timeless rhythm continued. The caravan's journey had reached its destination, yet the lessons of the desert, the gentle power of observation, the resilience of life in harshness, the quiet continuity of generations, would remain forever, etched in memory like the subtle patterns of sand under shifting wind. And now, dear listener, as our story comes to a close, imagine yourself for a moment walking along these dunes, feeling the warm sun, the soft wind, and the quiet pulse of the desert beneath your feet. Think of the traders, the camels, the hidden oases, and the centuries of journeys that have passed along the same sands. The Sahara, vast and eternal, has witnessed countless stories like this one, and in some way, your imagination has joined the caravan on its long, gentle path. Thank you for listening, and letting this story carry you through distant sands and quiet nights. If you enjoyed this journey through history and the calm whispers of the desert, please consider subscribing and liking the channel so we can continue exploring the world's stories together. Your support helps bring more journeys, more quiet adventures, and more meditative tales to life. Sleep well, and let the gentle rhythm of the desert guide your dreams tonight.